Salema, it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Your background is incredibly impressive. You've done so much with data for so long. Could you just take us through your career and kind of what brought you to the point you are in your career, and how you sort of fell in love with data?
Yeah, I've had I'm kind of aging myself, I guess. I have about 30 years of experience with data. I started as a management consultant. I did that for about a little over 20 years. During that time, I spent about 12 hours in the banking and financial services space. And then kind of, I think the chief data officers that, experienced those 2008, 2009 years, we learned a lot of lessons. And in 2014, 2015 timeframe, my consulting company actually asked me to come in-house as their chief data officer, which I thought, how are we going to apply best principles in banking and financial services to human capital management? But, I'm ready for the challenge. I think that what was really phenomenal at that time was that we saw a lot of chief data officers in financial services starting to embed themselves in other industries because of the fact that we had so much experience in data quality and metadata and data governance and data management during those years, that other industries could benefit from our gains and our losses, right? I mean, we failed a lot of things really fast during those tough years. So kind of joining the human capital management space, it was really easy for me to say yes, especially in the position I'm in now with Bain Capital and GRI. I love GRI. I love being in the human capital space, mostly because I have an opportunity to really make a difference. And I think that that's something that, in those years of 2008 and 2009, we knew that the foundation that we were laying was going to last forever, that things would never go back to the way they used to be. So I'm super excited to be in an industry that really didn't use data the way they could. And now we've developed data products and teams where, we can really make a difference in workforce decision analytics.
That's amazing. This idea that financial services, was kind of blazing the trail in terms of data. You are part of that, and now you're bringing that expertise in data to other industries and human capital management specifically. What projects are you doing now? What does data as an asset in next-gen data look like in human capital management? And what are the projects that you feel are like the bread and butter, like the core things? And then also, like, what are the ones that are more advanced that you're most excited about?
So for me, we actually have a data platform called Envision at GRI, and it's really around workforce decision analytics. But what it does is it goes beyond that typical rear view mirror that I think was, the standard, right, for reporting is, look in the rearview mirror, see what happened, where we've taken it to a different level of, here's what happened, here's why it happened, and here's what's going to happen next. So being able to rebuild a lot of the old legacy systems onto new modern systems of intelligence that are able to ingest any data from anywhere in any format. But I think even what might be even more greater than that is some of those lessons learned that around data quality and metadata and data governance that now we can apply to that, so that they're not looking at models, whether they're machine learning models or AI models, and feeling like it's a black box. We can easily lift the lid and see, where the data originated, who touched it, and how it actually became ingested, prepared, and transformed to where it is today. So super, super excited about that. We've developed several different models within the Envision platform that look at things like, where do I find purple squirrels? Helping our customers to identify where hard to find talent resides. We build models around consumer confidences or using external data to help us predict labor trends, things that this industry really never even considered 5 or 10 years ago.
It's so fascinating. So do you feel like as in human capital management and GRI, do you feel like you're still putting the basics in place to kind of catch up to where financial services was 5 or 10 years ago? Or do you feel like you're have an opportunity to kind of leapfrog maybe and kind of adopt next gen tech that avoid some of the legacy stuff?
Oh, that's a good question. I wish we could just jump frog all the problems, but a legacy systems are around, right? The human capital, we've been doing human capital management for a long time. What's unique about our situation is that GRI specialized in contingent labor, and contingent meaning anybody who's not a full-time employee. But what our customers are realizing now is that with the data environments that we have today, we actually can tell we can give them total talent. We can give them total talent strategies. We can give them total talent management. We can tell them, are they finding talent on an SOW or statement of work with the same skill set as their FTE or their competitive bid. Things like that again, like this industry, it wasn't capable because the foundation wasn't there. We spent the first 2 years building that foundation. So the core was really to architect the data for analytics. We've spent a good 2.5 years now really building out an architecture using a system of intelligence that could not just ingest the data, but ingest any data from anywhere in any format. So that hybrid technology has to be there in order to, ingest things from tables and columns, but also you have massive amounts of blobs of text from job descriptions or PDF files. And a lot of that data has to be transformed. And then really, I think where we can apply some of the things that the lessons we learned from financial services is around that data quality. I mean, honestly, a big problem that they had in human capital was that a lot of the fields are free form, right? So how do you create standardization? So for us, it was, let's start at we literally started at the bottom to build that foundation to standardize all of those things in order to apply things like master data management, to apply reference data and data quality and metadata and data governance. And I think that really was the foundation for architecting the data for analytics. Then you get into, building a semantic view and things that will enable your data scientists to be able to get to the models faster without having to do any of that data scrubbing.
So it's fascinating. So during that 2-year period, as you're sort of building out the core infrastructure, what was your trade-offs? When I was a CDO, it was kind of like, I'm always making these trade-offs of build versus buy. What was the mix like that you ended up with? And what are some of the tools and techniques that you found most useful? And what are some of the things you're like, well, we have to do that ourselves because there's nothing else out there?
That's a good question. I would say that a lot of the stuff we built in-house. I will tell you that I have an amazing team of leaders, of engineers, of data scientists, analysts that I call my family. Right? I mean, that's our motto on my team is, I'm the CEO of the data company and we're a family. And so family's first. A lot of the people on my team have worked with me for 10 years, some more, which is amazing. We have very little attrition. We respect each other, and we have great amount of innovation and creativity. The master data management was all built in-house. It wasn't an initial choice, but I think in this industry, investing millions of dollars into large, complex master data management, and the time that it takes to stand up some of the larger MDM and even data governance tools, we didn't have. We had to move very fast. One of my goals for our organization and me as a whole, it's kind of interesting because, being a chief data officer, this is the first time really, I think in my career where the data products that we're using are really changing the industry. So we're not just, managing behind the scenes. Like I'm kind of like chief product officer and chief data officer. And so, it really gives us the ability to build some things that are kind of tool agnostic. The Envision platform that we built is .NET, which is not even a typical CDO platform, but we've really gotten a lot of help from Microsoft with their new data factory. So we've been able to utilize the data factory to be able to be very hybrid, to be able to have the structured and structured data capabilities. We've also used a lot of Tableau in our development. Tableau allows us to kind of get to the why, the correlation of the data. So in this industry, it's really important not to just know what happened, but when you think about something like, if you're hiring hundreds, maybe even thousands of developers for an application development, you want to know not just that you're getting a fair market rate, but how does that rate actually impact you? So now we can actually correlate the data so that we can not just show the customers what happened, but really get to the why. And then using our machine learning and AI models, we can get to insights that tell them actions about, hey, here's what might be happening next. Or when you think about predicting where we're going, one of the things that's been interesting about COVID is that for the first time, like we don't have any data, right? Like this never happened before. So, how do we predict how we're going to come out of this? Well, right now our predictive models use really a combination of historical data and seasonality. A lot of what we do is industry based. We have very large customers in like online retailers or healthcare or consumer goods that weren't necessarily impacted the way manufacturing or light industrial was. So, a new level of seasonality, I think, is going to come out of this current season we're in.
It's really amazing how you think of yourself as, the chief, heading product as well as data, and that the data is kind of woven into the core product. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of what happened in financial services as well, right?
That's right.
And so you're kind of bringing that expertise. And how open was the leadership team and, the maybe more traditional folks that weren't sort of data savvy? How did you convince them that this was important, or did they just know? And is that why they brought you in? Like the human elements are always so hard. Like how did you make this happen?
Well, to be honest with you, I report to the CEO, and he actually sought me out. So I think that let him tell it. He interviewed a lot of people before he found me. I think that part of it is that, you have to have a mindset, right? That you want to do something different, that you want to make a difference. I think that a lot of leaders in our space are, great leaders managing people, managing data, but we had to go further. We had to, I have a great amount of responsibility, probably even more than even though I don't have as large of a team from a data perspective, what we do in terms of data management, data governance, metadata, machine learning, AI, product development. it's very broad. I can't really, kind of narrow it down because, and in some ways it's actually good to have oversight into all of that. The DBAs report to me, even the Microsoft Azure admins were reporting to me until just recently. Just because I think launching the product from the start and really building our entire data management strategy, from the bottom up, was something that they really wanted somebody who had a diverse background. And I think being a management consultant, working in multiple industries really helped me come into a company that services so many different industries. And it's something that I just never really thought about as I was progressing in my own career. I never realized what I was maybe being prepared for.
Well, it sounds like you had an enlightened CEO who really believed in that data was a part of the core fabric of the future of the company, and prioritized bringing you onto the leadership team. And because sometimes, right, the CDO kind of falls under the CIO. But to have a CDO that's independent on the leadership team with such a broad mandate, that sounds pretty unique and pretty forward thinking.
Yes, this isn't the first time. The last position, a couple of positions I've been in, I've reported to the CEO now, and I think that it's a great thing. I don't necessarily think that CDOs belong under CIOs. I think that depending upon the company, it can work. But I think that the CDO and the CIO need to work hand in hand. I think that the business needs to own the data and that IT needs to own the processes. So if you have somebody that's going to have both, then they kind of have to own both. And that's difficult to say, as a CIO, do you really want to own the data? Because, I think, when you start having global responsibility for things like data governance, for machine learning, for AI, for data science in general, right? The data scientists that are, building the algorithms, like that's generally not a typical IT function. But then again, a lot of CIO roles are changing as well. So I am very fortunate. I think that another thing that we see in the data space, and especially in a role like mine where I kind of do wear the product officer and data officer hat, is that there is a direct line to like how data is an asset for the organization. Like data is truly a major asset for us. Like we can quantify data based on volume of data, based on products that we're able to develop with data. Having data that enables us to build models that are unique for an oil and gas industry or unique for the consumer goods industry. Like this has really changed the course, I think, for data practitioners to, have a seat at a table at the CXO level. And even, with our customers, I think it's fascinating that when I joined this industry in human capital management, I would often meet with like chief procurement officers, HR, and that's not the case anymore. Now, what we're developing from a data perspective, there are some of our customers I meet on a monthly basis with their global CIOs. Several of our customers I meet with on a quarterly basis with their CFOs. So it's really amazing to me that, we have the ability now to reach so many different personas. I don't know if where you're located at right now, but here in Ohio, it was so fun to watch our governor talk about our data lake and how many attributes, how many data elements they're looking at in their data lake and across across the state. Just hearing that type of terminology and the data literacy come out of even a public official really kind of makes you feel like data's kind of sexy right now, you know?
It's incredible that it's gone so mainstream, to have, people that, never would have thought or talked about data to be, have it be top of mind. And, also as you start to think about the next 2-3 years and kind of go, as you take your organization and your tech to the next level, what are the things that are like most important to you and that you care about the most in terms of driving even more value or building on? Like, what are you most excited about going forward?
Well, to be honest, I'm really excited about the models that we can build, like, because we've spent so much time building the foundations. It's sometimes it takes precedence, right? Like being able to get all of our customers, the new customers that we're adding because of our data and analytics offering is phenomenal. So we spend a lot of time still in the in kind of building out and continuing to build up our repository of data. We've built the foundation, but I think that as we move more into like 2021, 2022, really where we're going to be focused is on the actual model development. So the machine learning and AI models that are really going to take us to the next level, to really understand and predict and learn from the data that we've been collecting for so long, to build out kind of answers to questions that are still, maybe taking us a day or a week to answer, that we'll really be able to answer in just a matter of seconds.
That's amazing. So it's kind of like the velocity of it is all sort of increasing.
Absolutely.
Another question around open source. So how important is open source? You mentioned you use .NET a lot. Are there a set of open source tools or tech that you really like that you think are important?
I do. There are some things that our team uses, definitely are, thinking about on the statistics side, rather than, in the past, I've used some more robust, not open source tools. But I think that,
maybe 3 letters that start with S and end with S, that
right?
kind of thing.
That being one of them. There are others, but I think that definitely comes to mind. I just think there's so many opportunities right now that technology is ever changing, that the more things that can help us to do our jobs faster and more efficient and give us greater visibility. I mean, when you think about this industry, honestly, whether you're on the staffing or the supplier or, the managed service side like we are, it's all about visibility. Like I joke with my customers now, I get to actually sit in on a lot of their, as an executive sponsor, sit in on their business reviews. And I say, what we're giving you is visibility on steroids, right? I mean, like you said you wanted data and analytics, welcome to my world. But, you've got to spoon, in all fairness, sometimes you've got to spoon feed them. And I think that as we move into the next generation of this, it's really about problem solving and, having those models available to be able to solve problems faster. So now we've laid the foundation, we've architected the data for analytics, we've done all of the kind of descriptive and predictive. We're going to be doing more on the prescriptive, but those tools that allow us to get there faster, to maybe even allow us to do more storytelling with the data, are definitely things that I might be looking at.
Wow, that's great. Well, I love that framework, right? That descriptive, predictive, prescriptive. That seems to apply very broadly and work really well for lots of folks. Not to spend too much time on tech, but cloud versus on-prem. How do you feel about it? Where are you in the journey? And what are your opinions about what people should be thinking about in their data organizations about leveraging the cloud or not?
Well, when I found out that we didn't really have a data strategy. Well, there was no data strategy. There was no, data environment per se. I felt like, it would be, if I had to manage all of that, it had to all be cloud. So
Got it.
There wasn't an on-prem option at the time. I don't know that I think I have pros and cons to each. It's not for everything's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And there are,
but you're mostly cloud. You're
100%.
Cloud. Wow. And mostly Azure, Microsoft, or a mix of
mostly Azure, but some AWS.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, we've heard, many of our customers, Tamer, really have warmed up to Azure, and they seem to be doing really well. And Cloud Data Factory seems to be a really fantastic offering. Yeah.
I love the fact that, like I said, when we did it, well, one, the cost, right? The cost is much less for us. And the support is a lot less. So, not having to have a large full-time ops team has helped dramatically, because I have a much smaller, I went from companies where I had 200 employees to, having a fraction of that. But what is amazing to me with my team is how much we're able to produce. So I think we're on maybe sprint 42, and we've developed an entire data management architecture, a strategy, an environment, dozens of models built inside of a product, all in 42 sprints. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Well, it's incredible just to hear, data management hero like yourself actually talking about sprints, right? I mean, there was a time like old world MDM projects took years, right? And waterfall, and for us, I don't know, we like to talk about data ops as kind of like this more agile approach to data management, but it sounds like you're practicing this every day. And like
I lived those years with you. I want you to know that. I lived the 6 months, 2 year MDM.
So brutal.
So to be able to produce stuff so fast, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to work with Bain Capital and with GRI, and to be given this opportunity to be the CEO of the data company, to be kind of handed that reign to say, what it's going to take to make us better. What we need, just do it, and to not have to have some guardrails, but to have the ability to, and the trust and the confidence in my management to say, you've got our best interests at heart. Do what you do best. It's been a lot of fun. It's definitely a job I love.
So cool. Sounds like you've got really truly have a seat at the table. And so tell me about your organization. How are you organized, and how do you see that changing kind of going forward?
So right now we have everybody kind of in one development team, which I'm not sure that down the road I might split that out, because it's more than the dozen. I think that typically most agile development that I've done in the data space is worked well with kind of that 10 to 12 people. So we probably put a little too many products into one sprint at a time. So we might look at, how we break out the MDM projects versus some of the other, a lot of our models that we're working on right now. We might have visualization, we might have data scientists as well as data engineers that are more individually grouped, and maybe like a group of 3 rather than even the groups of 12, to kind of create like smaller agile teams that can come together. But we've tried it a few different ways, and obviously right now it's really working, but it's just, thinking down the road with all the different products that we're developing, does it make sense? But I really love having everybody on a daily stand-up, although it doesn't take 15 minutes. It actually takes us about 45 to an hour. But it's good for me because another thing that's really unique about my organization is it's 100% remote.
Really?
Not because of COVID. Like, we've been 100% remote from day one. One of the things that the board gave me is the ability to hire who I needed wherever they were. So, and I think that because of that, I've been able to acquire, great talent that, I don't want to move to Detroit, or I don't want to move to Denver, where our core offices are. So we've been able to have people in different time zones and to be able to come together every single day, face to face, to talk about, what did you get done in the last 24 hours? What are you doing today? And what risks do you have? And so because of that, I think that they are incredibly talented, and we're able to get so much done. Like, the volume and the velocity of the team has really, it's 4 times what it was 2 years ago.
Wow. So it sounds like you have it all. You have a lot of these things that many other companies are striving for. Cloud-based, virtual teams, everybody remote, very agile approach. Like, it sounds like you're practicing those mainstream every day at scale. It's like a role model for
stars.
But there's so many people that would love to have just 1 or 2 of those things, and you're doing all of them in real time. So what do you think it's going to take? What advice do you have for other organizations? Do you think that they should, sort of as they go through their digital transformation and start to desire to be able to manage data as an asset, do you think that they should greenfield things and kind of start from scratch, or do you think that they should, take their time and kind of move incrementally? What do you think is the general, sort of orientation or center of gravity they should have in terms of how they approach that kind of digital transformation and data as an asset?
I would say first most, start small, like get big wins, right? Okay. You want raving fans. For me, we had to have raving fans all over we had to have different types of raving fans, customers that are raving fans, C-level executives that are raving fans, managers and directors that are raving fans, and even employees that are raving fans, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I say, when you start small and you can get big wins, then you can share those big wins and word gets out, right? Happy people, happy customers, does a lot for you. And so I think that that's number one, is don't try to bite off more than you can. So don't boil the ocean. No, don't boil the ocean, no matter what it is, whether it's for master data management, we picked one subject area, or data governance, one subject area, and do stuff that you can do fast, because for us, getting an MVP out there is really important. I'd never had global responsibility for products before either. So, I was the data diva for a long time. So it was, this was a whole new world for me. But one of the things I learned really fast is that we can get a product out and get all the other stuff afterward. Like, we can enhance it and enrich it, but getting it out there, getting it in people's hands, use it. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Tell us what data it needs. These are data products, right? These are not, application products. These are products that enable you to make decisions about your workforce. And so getting it into their hands and getting that one-on-one feedback, and being able to be agile enough that, I would say for the first maybe 36 sprints, we ran bi-weekly sprints and monthly release.
Wow.
Okay? With COVID,
Yeah.
We've been running bi-weekly sprints and bi-weekly releases.
Seriously. Oh my
Seriously.
gosh.
So, but I mean, after, 40 sprints, these guys they know each other better than they probably know themselves. But I think that having those quick wins in the customer, whether the customer is internal or external, because we have both. I have global responsibility for enterprise data as well as customer data. But I think, one, I would definitely say trust. That was a big part of it, right? Making decisions about data you trust. You can lose a raving fan very quickly by having data quality, so invest the time in those types of things that will help them to make confident, fact-based decisions. Now, if the data is bad at the core, do not fix it in the in the front layer. Like, go back to the source, because otherwise every time you go to the well, you're going to have the bad data still going to be there. So no matter what, we always take the time to go back to the system of origination and not the system of record, and fix any data quality or any anomalies at the source, so that if the customer were ever to look at something without being in one of our products, we want to make sure that that they trust it, right? I think the other thing is the visibility about the black box. We have a lot of competitors that have, I would say, I'm obviously biased, so I'm never going to say, anybody's baby's cuter than mine. But what makes us different is that we don't have a black box. We open the lid. Throughout every product we do, we provide all those things. Like, we give you, what was the data competency? What was the data quality? Like, what is it? What is the data definition? How is it being used? Where did it originate? What date is it based off of? And those types of things really helped our customers, internal and external.
So, Salema, one last question. If you think about the new people coming into data, the younger folks, what's your advice as to what they should focus on and what they should emphasize in terms of the skills they're developing and the kinds of areas where they should develop professionally?
I think that it's interesting the way that data has evolved over the years, that critical thinking is a lot more important, I think, than it used to be. In some ways, I'd rather have somebody who can think outside the box and less important about what tool they can use. I can teach you a tool. It's hard to teach you how to get that mindset of critical thinking and creativity, innovation, ideas. I often ask people in an interview, like, what kind of things do you do with data outside of work? It's unfair, but, I'm curious. I think that because, there's many areas in our lives where, data does impact us, and, how they've used data to affect something that wasn't work related. Speaks volumes for the type of person they are and how they're using data. So number one, I would say it's not just about the data in this case. It's really about, the problem solving. A lot of times I'll joke with my team and say, we're taking all your titles away and you're going to be problem solver 1 and problem solver number 2 and problem solver 3. Because that's really what it comes down to is, we use data to solve problems. I guess, from a technology perspective, it's a lot of the newer tools, do a lot for you in terms of the user interfaces. But I think the SQL skill set never goes away, no matter what tool you're using. Having that back-end expertise to be able to get in and kind of use or see kind of where there might be issues. Obviously, visualization and storytelling right now is really important. Being able to, depending upon what path you're going, right? If you're going the engineer path, then I would say absolutely, you can't stop at data. You've got to go to big data, because there's so much that we do now that's commingled. Especially in my world, we look at skills rather than job titles. Well, skills come from things like resumes and job descriptions and blobs of text that, we have to use some complex natural language processing on, to get to the engineers to that level. To, on my team, the engineers typically have extended numbers of years in both Python as well as in like a SQL or SSIS type applications. And then on the analytics side, though, I think having the ability to really have that education around some of the different visualization tools, whether it's Tableau or Power BI, doesn't really matter, or any of the other dozen or so that are out there. I think that what's more important is what type of problems did you solve with the tool? Because if you were, regardless of the tools all kind of work, you'll find similarities, and you'll find, good, bad, and different things in every one. So having specific tool sets really isn't a requirement on our data science side. Most of my data scientists actually have backgrounds in physics, I think, strangely, just because they came up through.
Amazing.
Yeah. And another thing we look at is, from on the data side, I think beyond kind of the storytelling is just the analysis. It's hard to find analysts who have both the expertise to kind of look at the raw data and visually with their eyes know, like, this isn't right, this is an anomaly. Maybe it's more of a data mining exercise more so. Obviously having classwork and things like master data management and other things is helpful, but I think if you have the core, you really, more than anything, you've got to have the desire to want to use data to solve business problems. Yeah.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you, and I can tell you, as even in my stage in my career, listening to you talk, like I would love to come and work for you. You've got all the right principles at work, and truly inspirational what you're doing. And I really thank you for taking the time to catch up and share your thoughts.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I don't do this too often, so I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great to catch up. Really would love to spend more time together at some point if you were up for it.